I'm Jessica Bamber, the most interesting woman in the world, and I am going to show you how to paint this mallard swimming in watercolor. So that mallard swimming is a little bit different than the other tutorials I've posted in that it's not photorealistic. It's a little bit more of an illustration. I use some wet on wet. Actually, I use mainly wet on wet, and it's a little bit more loose. So you can find the reference photo and my finished painting and the outline and the material list, as well as the tutorial video without ads. Right now, nothing on my YouTube channel has ads. Someday it might, but on Patreon there won't be ads. Anyway, you can find that all on Patreon. I will have the link to my Patreon in the description down below. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and like the video and click on the bell icon so that you get notifications when I post more videos. I'm going to do this a little bit differently than I did my other tutorials. So my cat is standing on me. I don't know how much of her you can see right now. Anyway, on Patreon, what I'm going to do is I'm going to post the video in 2 sections, and I think I'm going to start doing this on Patreon. So the first section is going to be the little introduction, and then the second section is just going to jump right into painting. That way, people who don't want to listen to all of this crud in the beginning can just jump straight to painting. But on YouTube, you're going to have to fast forward. That's one of the benefits of patronizing me on Patreon. Thank you for watching my videos. We're going to paint this mallard. This is the reference photo, and you can get it on my Patreon. You can also get the outline on my Patreon. You can get the material list in this video or on the Patreon. So this is a mallard swimming. And the paint I'm using is from Dandelion Paint Company, and it's watercolor, and I got it from letsmakeart.com. The colors that we're using are sepia, black, Payne's gray, pine green, dandelion yellow, Tahoe blue, tangerine. The brushes we are using are round 2 and round 6 and a liner, and I'm using the 20/0, but a 0 would work just fine. The paper I'm using is Canson Watercolor Cold Press 140 pound. Now, if you don't have the dandelion paints, they're these really cool liquid paints. That's fine. You could use Dr. P.H. Martin's liquid paints. You can use tube paints. You can use pans. It doesn't matter. Sepia is kind of a brownish color. Black speaks for itself. Gray speaks for itself. Pine green is a slightly bluish green that you often see on a mallard's head. Dandelion yellow is like lemon yellow. Tahoe blue, just choose a blue that you like. And then tangerine is an orange color. So go ahead, substitute those paints if you need to. Don't let the fact that you don't have the same paint as me stop you from doing this. So I've not painted this mallard yet. Other things you are going to need is a palette, a cup of water, a paper towel. I use these reusable kitchen towels, and a piece of scratch paper. And then I have my paper taped down to my table with blue I was going to call it artist tape, with blue painter's tape. You can use washi tape, whatever, just tape it down. I like the blue tape because it tends not to stick as much as some of the other masking tape, but it sticks better than washi tape. But a lot of times you've still got to get it warm so that you can peel it off without taking paper off. Oh yeah, you're obviously going to need a pencil and an eraser to draw out the duck. I have yet to paint this duck, so you're seeing the first painting of this duck along with me. I'm going to try to do a wet on wet because I'm not going for a super realistic look here. I mean, I want it to be reasonably realistic, but I'm not looking to see every single brush stroke. And I'm going to do the duck first, and I'm going to do the duck in sections. think I'm going to start with the beak or the bill on a duck, and that's going to be yellow. And I've got my round 2, and I'm going to lay down the water. Sometimes it can be tough to decide how much water to lay down. You don't want it to pool or puddle, but when you drop your paint in, you want it to spread. That's probably a little more than I envisioned it spreading, but we're going to roll with that. There are some highlights on the duck's bill. We're going to let that dry, and so we're going to move down here to this brown area on the duck's chest. Again, wet on wet. This is where we're going to use the sepia. The lightest here, so I'm going to drop the color in where it's darkest, which is up in here. We're just going to watch that spread. We can move it around a little bit with our brush. We're probably going to have to after we put it down. So we're going to wet our brush, wipe off the extra water. We're going to move that color into that highlight. I think that I'd like a little bit of Payne's Gray in there. So I'm just going to drop some Payne's Gray into that darker area. I could have mixed up some sepia with Payne's Gray, but I opted not to. I am moving that Payne's Gray around with that round 2. Okay. Kind of fades into here. And then it's a little bit darker here. We're going to move over here. This is the duck's little footy leg. Okay, it's a leg. So we're going to paint that in with water. Get the tangerine. We're just going to drop that in. Let the magic of watercolor take care of where it goes. And move on. And I'm trying to do parts of the duck that aren't next to each other. That way they can dry as I go. This part here is really black. We're going to do that now. I'm going to start with these cute little curly Q feathers here. Again, wet brush. And now we're just going to drop in the black. Sometimes I'll add other colors to the black, or I'll mix a bunch of colors together to make a black, but in the reference photo, it's a real dark, inky black color, so that's what I wanted to go with here. Clean off my brush. Now I've got water again. I'm going to wet this area here, the area that's black on the reference photo. Trying not to get too much water, but you know, if we do, we're just going to roll with it. Okay, take my black, drop that in, and just see where it goes. I love how it spreads. For me, I find that if I drop the color in as opposed to paint the color in, I get more of a cool spreading effect. It's kind of drying now, so I'm going to wash that paint off, wet my brush, spread it around. And I'm trying not to get rid of that cool spreading effect that I got. Okay, this area here is a very light gray. So I'm gonna take water on my brush, get some Payne's Gray. I'm gonna really water it down. I'm going to check on my test paper that I like it, and I do. Unfortunately, with my webcam that I'm using to record, I don't get as good a contrast and detail as I do if I'm using my iPhone, which is really unfortunate, but it's kind of a pain in the butt to use my iPhone, because then I have to transfer the photos from my phone to my computer. And my phone and computer don't like each other. Okay. Painting in the color here in this gray area. It's kind of starting to dry over here. You can see it doesn't spread real well once it starts to dry. So okay, we're going to wet the brush and we're going to drag that color. The paint wasn't drying, but the water I put on the paper was drying. Okay, and it's darker here in the reference photo, and we got it darker here in our duck. We're going to do this area now, and it's a little bit bigger than the areas we have been doing. So we're going to grab the round 6, get it wet, put water in this area, and we're basically trying to wet within the lines so that when we drop the paint in, it spreads within the lines and not to other areas of the painting. We're going to drop the Payne's Gray, and this is the very, very watered down Payne's Gray, into the darker areas first, which are back here. We need to kind of work quick, which I always have problems doing. I like to do very detailed work. So it's kind of tough for me to work really quick. And wet on wet is something that I struggle with because you have to work quick if you're going to get that cool blending spreading effect. Or you just have to buy more expensive paper than I buy. Now we're going to do this area of the duck, and it is kind of a gray sepia. So we're going to grab some of our sepia, we're going to bring it over to another spot in the palette, going to really water it down. We're going to grab some of this watered down Payne's Gray. Okay, I'm going to grab some of the non-watered down Payne's Gray. Let's see what we end up with here. I think that will work. We're going to go back to the round 2. Make sure we got the paint that we last used off of it. We're going to wet the brush. We're going to get this area of the duck's feathers wet. We're going to drop the color into the darkest areas first and let it spread. We're going to try to move fast. I'm going to come grab some paint, the lighter Payne's Gray, drop it in here. Wet my brush again, getting some of that paint off and kind of move it around and blend it. I'd like some more gray up here. So I'm going to grab that really light Payne's Gray and drop it in. Let it spread. This part of the duck up here is a little bit darker version of that sepia Payne's Gray. Again, I'm painting in with the brush, just some water. I'm going to grab that Payne's Gray sepia. I'm going to paint it in this little bit more sepia than it was the last time. I'm going to grab the unwatered down Payne's Gray. I'm going to drop it in up here at the top. You know what? I'm actually going to grab a little bit of black. This can really overwhelm a painting if we're not careful. We're just going to see what it gives us. Kind of like that. I'm going to bring that down into here. Unfortunately, that area is not still wet, so it's not spreading real well. So I'm going to grab my brush and I'm going to move it around, kind of blend it out. I'm going to do the same here. Going to come touch up in here. This triangle here, this part of the duck's wing is similar color to here. So that's that really watered down Payne's gray. We're going to grab that and we're going to put that in there. Now you'll notice that the tops of this wing are a little bit lighter than the middle. Doesn't have to be exactly like the photo. We're using the photo for inspiration. Now this part in here is nice sepia and gray color. I'm going to get it wet with our brush again, like we've been doing the other spots. Sometimes I find that I go over once and it's not wet enough, or it dries pretty quick, and so I go over it again. And figuring out how much water to put in an area you're doing wet on wet can be kind of tricky. Just play with it, and if it doesn't work for you, then don't do wet on wet. Just have fun with it. Okay, back to that sepia. I'm going to end up having to get some more. And I'm going to have to drop some Payne's gray in there. Get my brush wet and blend this out. I would like that to be a little bit darker. So I went in with that sepia Payne's gray mixture. I'm going to go in with some more straight sepia. I need to put some more on my palette. Woo! That was way more than I intended to. So when you subscribe to Let's Make Art boxes, you end up getting a lot of paint for the project. Way more paint than you actually need. And it's absolutely beautiful paint. And that's the dandelion paint that I'm using for this project. So I like to try to use it for other projects. I'm going to try to do more tutorials. So using the Let's Make Art paint, the dandelion paint, so that my friends who also subscribe to the box, okay, I'm going in with the black, and I'm going to drop that in. I'd really like it to be a little bit darker right along here. Anyway, so that my friends who also subscribe to the box will have some stuff to do with their leftover paint. That's my goal. Okay, I would like this area to be a little bit darker. So I'm wetting it again with the brush. I'm going to go in straight sepia. I'm going to drop it in. Okay, I'm not really dropping. I am full on painting. I'm going to bring that down into here, wet my brush, blend it out some more. These feathers here are pretty dark, so I'm going to, and yet they've got white around them. I might end up using some white gouache to put in some of the white again that I may end up losing. I didn't put white gouache on the list of colors I was using. I find it's a good idea to just always have white gouache handy. Or the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White is really cool. Okay. I'm going to wet my brush. I've still got some of that black on, and I'm going to, right here for these feathers, come in with a really watered down black and kind of outline it, because when I erase my pencil lines, I don't want to lose those feathers. I'm going to do the same thing for right here. I think maybe it's time to do the head. It's got a white neck, so we're going to leave its little neck white. We're going to try to avoid the eye. I'm going to use my round 6. I started off with the round 2, just switched to the round 6. Get that head wet. avoiding the eye. And it was really this head that made me decide to do the wet on wet with this, because I thought it would be cool to see how the paint spread for this head. And I'm starting in the darkest areas. Gonna wet my brush and I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna blend this all out. Trying to keep those highlights that exist in my reference photo. Going to come in here with some black and put it in the darkest areas on the head. Okay, now I'm going to get around that eye because it's pretty dark there. I'm going to get my brush wet. I'm going to blend this out again. It's not quite as dramatic as I would like, so I'm going to get some more green. Really put a lot more green on my brush this time. Wet my brush, get some of the green off. Blend that out a little bit more. Grab some of the black. Yes, now I like what I'm getting. Drop that in the darker areas on this duck's head. I would like some more green up there. Whoa, that was sepia. I was afraid I was going to do something like that. That's okay. We're going to leave that. I'm going to leave that. I'm going to grab the green and put it over it and see what happens. I get kind of a blackish color. Well, you know what? Ducks aren't perfect. Some of those dark colors can be kind of tough to identify when they're on your palette. I would like this to be a little bit darker up here. We're going to let the duck itself dry. I managed to spread around some of the yellow. Well, we're going to try to do the reflection. We're going to do the... Oh, here, I'm going to try to move some of this around. We're going to do the reflection as wet on wet as well, but the reflection is going to be really loose. So we're just going to paint the entire reflection area with water. When I say paint right now, I mean get it wet. And we don't want it to be super bold because we're going to end up coming in here with kind of like a blue. It's drying out, so I'm going to get it wet again. And that's the sepia gray mixture that I grabbed. Yeah, for you, I recommend you leave the green out. I'm not sure I like that. Okay. Cool. I'm pretty happy with that so far. I think I'd like this area to be... I think I better leave well enough alone when it comes to the duck. Now, let's try to do this water. I'm going to get this area wet out here in front of the duck. And I'm going to try to let the water kind of fade away into nothing. But I got it all wet. And I'm going to try to follow my pencil lines roughly with this Tahoe blue and let it spread out, it being the paint. Let this paint spread out. Wet my brush, come blend it out. Don't know that I'm happy with that, but it is what it is. We're going to leave it. I don't necessarily want it to be very dramatic all the way to the edge of the paper. So I'm just kind of going to let it fade. Going to get this area wet over here. Grab that Tahoe blue and again follow the pencil lines roughly. Wet my brush, blend it out. I'd like it to be a little bit darker here, so I'm going to get the paper wet again. I'm going to get some watered down Tahoe blue. It's a little darker than I'd like it. It's a good thing I started up here by the ripples. Okay. I would like there to be some blue around the duck. I want it to be very, very light. Let's see if I can accomplish this. Yeah, I think that'll work. I'm going to try to do wet on wet around the duck, but it might be a large enough area that it's not going to work. And I want to be careful that I don't end up smearing the duck. I ended up smearing some of that yellow a little bit earlier. Not really off the duck's bill. Not really a whole lot I can do about it. I wish I hadn't. I'm going to come over here to the back of the duck. This is just water at this point. I'll go back in with my really light blue. That's basically just a really watered down Tahoe blue. I'm kind of outlining around the duck with the water because I want to get up close to the duck, but I don't actually want to hit the duck with the water. And I really could use a bigger brush for this, but that's okay. We'll make do with what we've got. Usually I try to paint in the direction of, or the contour of the thing I'm painting. In this case, the water, but sometimes that doesn't always work. We're going to let this duck dry. You know what? I'm going to try to get a little bit darker sepia there, but I don't want it to be too dark. Try to get some of that gray in there on the reflection of the duck. No, that's darker than I wanted it to be. No, blend that out. Blend that out. We're going to let the duck dry, and then we're going to go in with our zero or our liner, and we're going to add the yellow for the beak or the bill, and we're going to add, or I'm sorry, the little black for the bill or its little nose hole, and we're going to do the eyes. Eye. We can only see one eye. And if it's not completely dry when we do that, then we're going to end up spreading more of the black than we wanted to, kind of like I did. I could go over that with some gouache if I wanted to, but I'm going to just leave it alone. Filling in the black for the duck's eye, trying to leave a little white spot. If you accidentally fill that in, you can go over with the white gouache or the P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. There you go. That's our duck. Unfortunately, my, like I said, webcam doesn't do as good a video as my iPhone does. So I feel like you don't get a real good picture right now, but that's okay. I'll take a picture with my iPhone and I'll put it in the video. I am going to grab some gouache. Got some lemon yellow gouache, and I'm going to see what happens if I try to touch up around that duck's bill. I might not end up being happy with this result. I am literally taking this directly from the tube to try to clean up that black. Hopefully your paint, yours was a little bit more dry than mine was when you put the black in on his bill. There we go. We're going to leave it alone. The other tutorials that I've posted have been quite a bit longer. I'm going to try to do some short tutorials, some long tutorials. I have a tendency toward photorealism by nature. Those are a little bit longer, but I'm going to try to do some short ones. I said we were done. I want some water to show through here. So try to get it really, it being the brush, really light blue on it, and just go in and I'm adding the water. Like you're seeing the water through those tail feathers. Okay, I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. This is really it. Thank you for following my video. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube. You can patronize me on Patreon. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I will have all of the links in the directions below. Sorry, in the description below.